Today we're making a low and slow classic, a pulled pork on the Weber Smoky Mountain. I'm smoking a pork butt for pulled pork. I like to run the smoker a little hotter than I would for the likes of, say, a brisket. So the smoker is set up at the minute for around 130 degrees Celsius. So you can run that 125 to 135 range and it should be fine. Pork butt can handle it a little hotter than the likes of a brisket can. To do that, I'm using the minion method. So a full heap chimney starter of unlit briquettes go into the charcoal grate, and then I light up around 15 briquettes in the little portable chimney starter and put that in on top. So that'll slowly light up the unlit briquettes and it'll give you a nice long burn time and maintain that temperature. You can use then the vents on the smoker to control that temperature and keep it in the range you want it to. The Weber Smoky Mountain then has the water bowl in it. So some people like to do it without water and just put a deflector plate in. Some people like to fill their water bowl with sand, but I'm happy enough using the water bowl. I've got good results with it in the past. So always make sure you fill it with boiling water and not cold water, as it'll suck all the heat out of your smoker. If you were doing this on the likes of a Weber kettle, you would probably use something like the snake method. So that's a ring of charcoal around the outside of your, or unlit briquettes, should I say, around the outside of your kettle. And then you add a few lit ones at the start and that'll slowly burn the whole way out round, giving you again a nice long cook time. So we'll go ahead now and get the pork butt prepared with the rub and get it onto the smoker. So for this pulled pork we're using a boneless pork butt. This is from the shoulder of the pig. It's quite a tough cut of meat, so you need to cook it for a long time at a low temperature to melt down all the fats and connective tissues inside it. That allows you to pull it apart. There's not a lot of prep to do with this. You can do it with a bone-in pork shoulder as well, but for something like this here that's boneless, all you really need to do is go around it, have a look for little bits like this that are hanging off. You don't really need them, so you just take a knife and trim them off. They're only going to burn up. So as long as it's nice and uniform all over, if there's any heavy fat caps on it, you can take them off. Most of the fat for this recipe comes from within inside the pork butt, so you don't need a fat cap on top. Seasonings wise, we're going to layer up two different rubs today. So we're using Angus and Oink, the general, and Porky White Chick, again from Angus and Oink. So we'll start with the Porky White Chick first, as it's a finer dust. Dust it on all sides. Once you have your first layer down then of Porky White Chick, you can switch over. The general's a slightly coarser rub, so we're going to go ahead then and give it a coating of it too. So just let that sit for a few seconds to allow the rub to tag up to the surface, and then we'll turn it over and do the other side. I've just put the pork butt on. I'll give it a little bit of time to get the temperature back up in the smoker again after opening the lid. the main thing now, it's going to cook for a long time, so we're not really going to look at it for another maybe 3 to 4 hours. At this first stage of the cook, we're only looking to get a nice colour on it. So you've added in the wood chunks. I'll go over them in a wee second, but leave it alone. Don't worry about internal temperatures to start with. You're purely looking for a nice colour on the outside, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it, and at that point then, once we get closer to their finishing temperatures, we can start to monitor them. So wood chunks, I've used a blend of 2 different ones. They're both from Smokewood Shack. So the first one is silver birch, and the second is cherry. So it's quite a nice mix. I'll leave a link in the description for Smokewood Shack so you can go and check them out. They do quite a wide range of different wood flavours, and they do them in chunks, chips, and also dust. So silver birch and cherry was what I've put in at the minute. Just 1 chunk of each, you don't want too much. And again, they'll smoke for quite a long time. They were quite large chunks. So we'll monitor that again then maybe about 3 to 4 hours time, see what the colour's like on it, and at that point, if we're happy, we'll lift it off and wrap it up. So pork butt's been on for about 3.5 hours now. I'm pretty happy with the colour, so we're going to go ahead and lift it off and wrap it. Be careful whenever you're sitting on not to rip your foil. So it's got a good colour, still nice and moist. You can see the fat starting to crack here in places, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and whenever we're wrapping it, we're actually going to add in some apple juice to it. Just bring up the edges of your foil. And add a little bit. Just try and keep them in. Try and wrap it as tight as possible, and that'll stop the bark steaming off the outside of it. So now that's wrapped, we're going to put it back on, let it continue cooking, still sitting around 130 Celsius. There's still quite a few hours yet left before it'll be tender enough to pull, so we'll just set that back onto the smoker, close the lid, and just maintain the temperature. So the pork butt has been in now for just over 7.5 hours. I had a little feel at it, it feels quite soft and tender. So we're going to unwrap it now and I'll have a look at it just to see what it's like. Still got quite a good colour on it, there's plenty of liquid still in the foil, so hopefully it's tenderised down. I'll put it into a tray in case we get any leaks. So temperature wise it should be somewhere up around 93 or so, but really you're feeling for tenderness, so you've probably heard the term probes like butter, so just probe it in a few different places and there should really be not very much resistance with the probe going in, but it's not quite ready yet. What we need to do is wrap it up loosely and let it rest for a while. Temperature wise is sitting at 94, so that's in and about around 90. I started checking it every now and again to feel for tenderness, so it feels pretty good at the minute. We're going to wrap it up and let it rest for about an hour. You don't have to wrap it too tight, just loosely wrap it. Just let that chill out for a while and then we'll shred it later. So the pork butt's been resting for about an hour now. It's retained quite a lot of the bark. It's got a nice colour all over. Still nice and soft and pliable. You'll know it's rested enough whenever you can touch it with your bare hands. It doesn't burn anymore. So to shred it apart then, all you need to do is with your tongs, just start. It should all shred apart. And you can shred it as much as you want. I like to leave it sort of slightly chunkier. So as you can see, it just pulls apart. It's nice and tender. So all that fat and connective tissue inside has all broke down with cooking it low and slow. So you still get bits like this, sort of nice gnarly bark on them. They're still tender, you can pull them apart. So you can keep the juices from the pan. Once you shred it all up, you can add them back into the juices, and I'll keep them moist. As I say, if you're serving straight away, you shouldn't really need to do that. So it tastes brilliant. The two Angus and Oink rubs have worked really well together. There's a nice colour on it. So give it a go. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see any more videos. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.